Close your eyes for just 1 second, not long, 1 second, and feel the weight you are carrying right now. The financial pressure that sits on your chest the moment you wake up before you have even fully opened your eyes. The list of things that need to happen that you do not currently have the resources to make happen. The gap between what you need and what you can see available to you. The quiet exhaustion of carrying that gap, day after day, and still getting up, and still moving, and still trying to believe that something is going to shift. Feel the full weight of it for just 1 moment, and then stay right here. Because Archangel Michael has been sent to this exact moment in your day with a message that is going to reach directly into that weight and begin to lift it, not with empty words, with a revelation that is going to change the way you see what is actually happening in your life right now. God is providing for you right now, not eventually, not when the circumstances align more favorably. Right now, in this moment, in the situation that looks most impossible from where you are standing, provision is moving. It is already in transit. It was released before you finished praying about it, before you fully articulated the need, before you knew exactly how large the gap was. Heaven saw the need forming before you did, and began assembling the response to it before you had the words to ask. Stay right here. Because the full picture of what is already moving toward you is what this message is going to reveal. Do not scroll, do not skip. What is coming next will reach the part of you that worry has been living in and replace it with something that worry cannot survive in. Worry is a very specific experience. It is not simply concern or awareness of a problem. It is the particular state that arrives when you have assessed a situation, concluded that the resources required to resolve it exceed what is currently available to you, and then continued to hold that conclusion in your mind and run it on repeat. Worry is the loop, the same calculation running again and again, arriving at the same frightening answer, and then running again because the answer was frightening enough that the mind cannot stop checking whether it is still true. And the reason the loop runs is not because you are weak or faithless or lacking in trust. The reason it runs is because the situation is real, the need is real, the gap is real, and your mind, which is designed to solve problems, keeps returning to a problem it cannot solve with the information and resources currently in its possession. The loop is not a character flaw. It is a very human response to genuine uncertainty. And Archangel Michael is not here to shame you for the loop. Heaven is here to give your mind the information that stops it. The information is this. You are not calculating the situation with full information. You are calculating it with the information available in the natural realm. What is in your account? What is in your visible network of relationships and resources? What is accessible through the channels you can see? And based on that information, your mind is arriving at a conclusion that feels accurate because the calculation is being done correctly with incomplete data. But there is a realm of provision that your calculation is not accounting for, a dimension of resource that does not appear in your current visible inventory, a supply that is already moving toward your specific situation through channels that your worry cannot see and therefore cannot include in its assessment. And when that supply arrives, when what is already in transit lands in your visible circumstances, the calculation is going to change completely. Not because the problem was not real, but because the provision that answers it was always real too. You just could not see it yet. Stay with me. Do not move. The specific revelation about what is already moving toward your life is still ahead. I want to tell you about the way God provides. Because most people have a model of divine provision that is too narrow to receive the full scope of what heaven actually does. The model goes something like this. I have a need. I pray about the need. God hears my prayer. God sends provision through a clear and recognizable channel. The provision arrives. The need is met. That model is real. It happens. But it is the small version of how provision works. And if you are only looking for that version, you are going to miss the larger and more common and more complex way that heaven actually moves resources into the lives of its people. God provides through the unexpected conversation that you almost did not have, the one where you mentioned something casually to someone who turned out to have the exact connection or resource that your situation required. God provides through the idea that arrives in the quiet moment, the solution your mind produces when it finally stops running the worry loop long enough to receive something new. God provides through the circumstance that looks like inconvenience and turns out to be redirection towards something better. God provides through the person you encounter who has no idea they are carrying something you need, through the opportunity that appears in the space left by something that closed, through the timing that seems terrible from inside your worry and looks perfectly orchestrated from heaven's perspective. Provision is already moving through channels like these in your specific situation right now, not one of them, several. Because the need you are carrying is real enough that heaven is not sending a single answer. Heaven is assembling a response that addresses not just the immediate pressure, but the underlying architecture of your financial and material life in a way that produces stability rather than just relief. This is important. Hear this. What is coming is not designed to simply close the current gap and leave you one crisis away from the next one. What is coming is designed to shift something foundational, to move you from a posture of constant management of scarcity to a posture of genuine sufficiency. Not wealth in the sense that the world defines it necessarily, sufficiency in the deepest sense, enough, reliably, sustainably, in a way that does not require constant anxiety to maintain. Do not scroll. Archangel Michael says, stay right here. The word that is going to break the worry loop is still coming. Do not miss it. Let me talk about what worry costs you. Not to add guilt to what you are already carrying, but because understanding the cost is part of understanding why releasing it is not passive or irresponsible. It is actually the most productive thing you can do in this moment. Worry costs you access to the very faculty that heaven most often uses to move provision into a person's life. That faculty is your intuition, the inner voice that registers opportunities before logic has fully processed them. That prompts you toward a certain conversation, or a certain decision, or a certain direction, not because you have reasoned your way there, but because something in your spirit has received information from a realm that your worry is too loud to hear. When you are in a sustained state of worry, that voice is drowned out, not gone, drowned, buried under the noise of the loop. And the practical consequence of that is that you miss the very signals heaven is sending to guide you toward the provision that is already in transit. Worry also costs you the relational presence that makes you the kind of person people want to help. When you are deep in the anxiety of financial pressure, your presence in conversations and encounters changes. You become less fully there, less genuinely curious about others, more preoccupied. And people feel that preoccupation even when they cannot name it. And the person who might have thought of you for an opportunity, who might have introduced you to a connection, who might have offered something that aligned with exactly what you needed, sometimes does not make that move towards someone who seems to be somewhere else even when they are physically present. Releasing the worry is not denial of the problem. It is clearing the channel through which the solution is trying to reach you. It is turning down the noise so that the signal can get through. And the signal is already transmitting. Heaven is already speaking into your situation. The provision is already moving. The question is only whether your internal state is quiet enough to receive the guidance that will bring you into contact with what is already heading toward you. To show heaven that you are releasing the worry and opening to receive what is moving toward you right now, go to the comments and type "My provision is already in transit." Let that declaration be the act of your will that aligns your spirit with what heaven is confirming. Do it now and then stay with me, because the specific dimensions of what is coming are still being revealed. Now let me be specific, because general encouragement about provision is available everywhere, and what your spirit needs right now is not general. It is specific. It is targeted to your actual situation. And Archangel Michael does not send general messages. When heaven interrupts your scroll and holds you in a moment, the word that comes through is precise. The first specific thing that is coming toward you is a financial opening you did not pursue. Something is going to arrive through a channel you did not activate, an opportunity you did not apply for, a conversation you did not initiate, that is going to produce a practical resource. This is one of the signatures of divine provision, the thing that comes through the channel you did not work. not because your work does not matter, but because heaven wants you to know that the source of your provision is not ultimately your own effort. Your effort is real and it matters, but the ceiling on what your effort alone can produce is much lower than the ceiling on what your effort plus heaven's intervention can produce. The opening that is coming is going to exceed what your own effort could have reached, and when it arrives you will know it was not only your doing. The second specific thing that is coming is the resolution of something that has been pending. There is a situation, a decision, an agreement, a process that has been in a holding pattern and whose resolution would materially change your circumstances. That resolution is coming. The delay has been in the realm of preparation, not in the realm of abandonment. Heaven was ensuring that when the resolution arrived, it arrived in its complete form and not in a partial version that would have required additional resolution before it was fully effective. The complete version is coming, in a timeline that is shorter than your worry has been predicting. The third specific thing that is coming is an idea, a specific, practical, actionable idea that has not yet arrived in your thinking. Something that addresses your situation in a way that has not occurred to you because the worry loop has been consuming the mental bandwidth that the idea requires to form. When the worry releases even partially, when there is a moment of genuine quiet in the loop, this idea is going to arrive, and when it does, you are going to recognize it, not as something random, as something that fits, as a piece that your spirit has been waiting for, without knowing exactly what shape it would take. That idea is already formed in the realm where heaven assembles the solutions before they arrive in human consciousness. It is waiting for the channel to be clear enough to transmit. Release the worry and the channel clears. The idea arrives. Do not scroll. Stay right here. The word that is going to change how you see your situation permanently is still coming. I want to talk about the people God is using to bring what you need, because provision almost never arrives as a purely supernatural event disconnected from human vessels. God moves through people, and the people God is currently using on your behalf are not all people you know are on your assignment. Some of them do not know they are on your assignment. They are simply being nudged by a quiet internal prompt. They are not examining too closely and following it in a direction that is leading them toward you. There is someone right now who has been thinking about you, not in the way that you would necessarily know about. A thought that arrived in a quiet moment and has returned several times. A curiosity about where you are and what you are doing that has a quality that feels like more than social interest. This person has something that is relevant to your situation, a resource, a connection, an opportunity, a piece of information that intersects with what you need, and heaven is continuing to prompt them toward you, continuing to bring you to mind, continuing to create the internal conditions that make reaching out feel like the right thing to do. That person is about to make contact, through whatever channel makes sense in the context of your relationship, and when they do, receive it fully and with openness and without the preoccupation of the worry loop that has been making you slightly less present than you need to be for the conversations that matter. Because the conversation with this person matters. It is not casual, even if it begins that way. It is carrying something that heaven placed in it, and your full presence in that conversation is part of how you receive what heaven placed there. There is also someone you encounter regularly who has been positioned in your life for this season specifically, not someone new, someone already present, whose role in your story is about to shift from familiar background to significant foreground, who has something to offer that you have not yet thought to ask for because you have not fully perceived the scope of what they carry. Pay attention to the people who are already in your life with new eyes in this season. Someone who has been constant is about to become consequential. Stay with me. Do not scroll. The final dimensions of what is being released over your life are still coming, and they are the most important part of this message. I want to address the faith question, because there is a version of this message that someone could receive and immediately begin to examine themselves against. Do I have enough faith? Is my worry itself evidence that my faith is insufficient? Is the fact that I am struggling with anxiety about my provision a sign that I do not believe correctly enough to receive what heaven is sending? And the answer to all of those questions is no. The presence of worry does not disqualify you from provision. The disciples were in a boat in a storm, and they were afraid. They had walked with Jesus. They had witnessed miracles. And they were still afraid in the storm, and the response of heaven to their fear was not to withdraw provision until they achieved a better fear-to-faith ratio. The response was to calm the storm, to address the actual circumstance, to meet them where they were and not where they should have been. You are in a storm right now. The financial pressure is real. The anxiety it generates is understandable. You are not failing a faith test. You are in a hard situation, and you are still here, and you are still listening, and you are still open to what heaven is saying. That is not weak faith. That is faith doing exactly what faith is supposed to do in hard circumstances, holding on, remaining oriented toward God even when the storm is loud and the water is rough and the destination feels very far away. Heaven is not waiting for your worry to reach zero before releasing what is already moving. The provision is in transit independent of the current state of your anxiety. What releasing the worry does is not earn the provision. It clears the channel for you to receive the guidance that brings you into contact with it. The difference is significant. You are not performing faith to receive reward. You are quieting the noise to hear the signal that is already being transmitted. Archangel Michael says, "Tell them, their worry has not stopped the provision. It has not delayed it. The provision is moving on heaven's timeline, not on the timeline that worry has been predicting. And heaven's timeline is closer than worry is willing to believe." I want to speak now about letting go, because the title of this message says "Let go of worry," and that phrase deserves more than a passing acknowledgement. Let go is not a feeling. It is a decision. It is an act of the will that precedes the feeling, and that the feeling eventually follows. You do not wait until you feel at peace and then decide to let go of worry. You decide to let go of worry, and then peace follows the decision, sometimes immediately, sometimes gradually, but the decision comes first. What does the decision look like practically? It looks like consciously interrupting the loop when you notice it running, not suppressing what you feel, not pretending the situation is not real, but actively choosing not to follow the thought into the spiral. Noticing the worry loop engaging and saying out loud if necessary, "I release this to heaven. The provision is already in transit. My job is to remain open to receive it," and then redirecting your attention, not to denial, but to something constructive, to the present moment, to the conversation in front of you, to the action that is available to you right now that contributes to your situation without requiring you to solve the whole thing in your mind before you take the next step. The letting go is not a single act. It is a practice in this season. You will need to do it repeatedly. The loop is practiced. It runs with a momentum that does not stop after one interruption. But each interruption weakens it. Each conscious redirection toward trust strengthens the alternative pathway. And over the days ahead, as the provision begins to arrive, and as the evidence accumulates that what heaven said was moving was actually moving, the loop loses its argument. Because the argument of worry is always that the provision is not coming. And when the provision comes, even partially, even in the first wave of what is a larger movement, the loop has nothing left to run on. The evidence is coming. Stay open to receive it. Do not move. Do not scroll. One more dimension of this word needs to be received before the final declaration. Stay right here. I want to talk about gratitude as a weapon against worry. Not gratitude as a spiritual performance. Not the forced manufacturing of positive feelings about a situation that is genuinely difficult, but the intentional return of your attention to the things that are already present and real and provided for, even in the middle of the things that are not yet resolved. In your life right now, even in this season of pressure, there are things that are provided, things that were provided yesterday and the day before, things that your worry overlooks because the worry is focused entirely on the gap, the provision of your breath, the provision of your mind that is still functioning and still capable of receiving this word and still capable of generating the ideas and taking the actions that heaven is going to use to move your situation, the provision of the relationships that are still present, The provision of the specific gifts that you carry that are about to become more visible and more consequential than they have been in previous seasons. These are not small things dressed up as big things to distract you from real problems. These are real provisions that are easy to overlook when the worry loop is running, because the loop is not designed to notice what is present. It is designed to notice what is absent, and redirecting even part of your attention to what is present does something in the spiritual atmosphere around your life. It shifts the frequency from scarcity to sufficiency, and sufficiency is the frequency that attracts more sufficiency, not as a law of attraction in the simplistic cultural sense, as a spiritual principle that says the person who can receive what they have is positioned to receive more, and the person who can only see what they lack is not positioned to receive what heaven is trying to add. Practice the return of attention. In the middle of the loop, find something that is provided and name it, out loud if possible. Let your voice carry the declaration of what is already present into the atmosphere of your life, and watch what that practice does over the next days and weeks to the frequency of your experience. Share this message with someone who is in financial pressure and who needs to hear that the pressure does not mean heaven has stopped providing. Someone who is in the worry loop and who needs the information that stops it. Someone who has been calculating their situation with incomplete data and who needs to know that the provision their calculation cannot account for is already in transit. When you carry this word for others, Archangel Michael carries your provision forward. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another word prepared for your season. Heaven is speaking specifically and consistently, and you want to be in position to receive every word that carries your name and your situation. My beloved child, you stayed through this entire message while carrying the weight of what you are carrying. That is not a small thing. You came here with the pressure of real need and real uncertainty, and you stayed open to what heaven was saying, even while the worry was also present. That is faith, not the absence of worry. Faith alongside the worry. Choosing to hear, even when the loop was running. Choosing to remain open, even when the situation was pressing. God is providing for you right now, not as a comfort statement to make a difficult situation feel better, as a factual declaration about what is actually happening in the invisible realm around your life in this moment. The provision is assembled, it is in transit, it is moving through channels you can see and channels you cannot see toward the specific situation you are carrying. And its arrival is not contingent on you achieving a perfect state of worry-free faith before it can land. It is coming because heaven is faithful, and because your need is real, and because the God who clothes the grass of the field and feeds the birds of the air has not forgotten the person made in the image of heaven who is sitting in financial pressure and still choosing to listen for what God is saying. The worry has been lying to you, not about the reality of the need, about the unavailability of the provision. The need is real, and so is the provision. Both are real, and the provision is larger than the need, and it is already moving. Let go of the worry, not because the situation does not warrant concern, but because the situation is already in the hands of someone whose resources are not limited by what you can see, and those hands are already moving. Receive it, all of it. The financial opening that is coming, the resolution that is pending, the idea that is waiting for the channel to clear, the person who is about to make contact, the shift from scarcity to sufficiency, that is the real destination of what heaven is releasing in this season. It is coming, it is close, and it is going to be more than enough.